think Kamala Harris and Biden were a disaster. I believe that. But again, this turn to Iran, to interventionism, to me feels like the biggest betrayal of a political movement I've ever seen.
Well, that's because it is the biggest betrayal of a political movement we have ever seen. And that's saying a lot because the bar is real high. Now, it's safe to say comedian Tim Dillon doesn't have warm and fuzzy feelings toward the Trump administration at the moment. And the current state of the so-called MAGA movement, I think, is enough reason to not be very happy with the outcome of Trump getting elected for the second time. Now, despite the fact that Tim Dillon, even in the context of this interview, has said that he didn't even vote for a presidential candidate in the last election, he has characterized the war in Iran as the biggest betrayal of a political movement. And that's significant. Now, Dillon, who hosted JD Vance, now Vice President JD Vance, on his podcast days before the 2024 election, was thought to be one of the podcasters who really helped the Trump campaign win. And I'm sure he doesn't love that these days, or love that he's thought of being one of those people. But other podcasters included like Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Andrew Schultz. I know Theo Vaughn had President Donald Trump as a candidate on his show. You get the picture. And according to CNN, from sit downs with Dillon and the comedian Theo Vaughn to appearances with the online pranksters known as the Nelk Boys, podcaster Joe Rogan and Twitch streamer Aiden Ross, Trump team placed calculated bets on an ecosystem of influencers who may not be conventionally political, but command attention and, more crucially, loyalty from the digital generation. However, the initial enthusiasm that some of these podcasters may have had toward Trump or JD Vance seems to have dissipated because Trump has turned his back on the very people who got him elected in the first place by betraying them, betraying what he said that he was going to do for them. He has made our economy far worse. Prices have gone up. Inflation isn't getting any better. We have engaged in more wars. Obviously, we started a war with Iran, and that has been a complete doozy in crashing, not crashing the economy yet, but the economy is not doing well. And the inflation we're experiencing is the result of a war that we should not be involved in. The Trump administration literally indicted 94-year-old Raul Castro of Cuba, and they're planning a regime change war against Cuba soon. I mean, it's just, total opposite of what Trump claimed he was going to do for the American people if he got elected. There's the Epstein files cover up, and Trump, of course, engages in his typical saber rattling while waging wars with nations that we have nothing to do with. We wouldn't benefit from going to war with these countries, but Israel wants it, so we're going to do it anyway. But few have been so vocal in their criticism of Trump as Dillon, who went on to say the following.
We've had the host of The Apprentice serve 2 terms as American president. Tucker Carlson, whether people love him or hate him or don't even care about him, he's incredibly televisual. He's incredibly eloquent, fast talking, inspirational to many people. Is it unthinkable that someone like him could become the new face of the Republican Party?
Certainly not. I don't think it's unthinkable. I think it would really depend on if the country was going to give any Republican a shot after this. I think Trump's damaged the Republican brand in the near future for years to come.
I don't think JD Vance stands a chance. I think JD Vance is going to run into the same problem that Kamala Harris ran into. Biden was a deeply unpopular president. Trump is a deeply unpopular president. JD Vance wanted to present himself as an anti-interventionist. I mean, I feel that Vance was lying about his actual identity and what he actually believes for a long time now. He is a creation of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel and his companies benefit greatly from wars, from surveilling the American people. JD Vance is not about freedom of speech, freedom from government surveillance. He is a creation of the very people who benefit from that. But he was going to try to lie and pass himself off as what young conservative voters are looking for in a president. And he's just not that. So let's say we fast forward to 2028 and JD Vance is one of the GOP contenders in the primary for president. Is he going to distance himself aggressively from President Donald Trump? I doubt it. And even if he does, are people going to believe him? And by the way, Trump is already starting to endorse Marco Rubio over JD Vance, which can't wait for that fight. But anyway, Dillon also criticized big tech and finance for its role in policy continuity from one administration to another. Doesn't matter. That's what we get in this country. Take a look.
It seems to be with Trump going into Iran, no matter who you vote for, you do seem to get a lot of the same foreign and economic policy in my country. You do seem to get military intervention abroad, and then kind of the tech and the financial sector dominating the domestic political agenda, no matter who's in there. And that's why all these tech CEOs are clustered around him in China. These are the same people that were with Biden and Harris and censoring their websites to limit conservative speech when they were in. So they obviously view themselves as the actual government, and whoever the president is like a guy giving them a tour.
They might be half right.
I think they're more than half right.
Partisan politics has always been a trick when it comes to some pretty serious issues. So when it comes to economic issues, you'll have the Democrats and Republicans play good cop, bad cop. But at the end of the day, and I actually framed it this way when I was having a debate with one of my friends who's a lifelong Democrat, all of that. Here's what tends to happen. Republican administrations come in and they break things, they do what they do, right? So they'll roll back certain liberties Americans enjoy, or they'll roll back regulations so corporations can screw us even more. And then people are upset. So they think, oh, well, the Republicans did this, so we gotta elect the Democrats next. Democrats get elected, and then do they fix the things that were broken? Never. They never do because they don't actually care and they never wanted to. Perfect example, when Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal in 2018, Joe Biden campaigned on re-implementing the Iran nuclear deal. Did he actually do it? No, he didn't do it, did he? He didn't do it, did he? When Trump provided cover for Mohammed bin Salman after he ordered the slaughter and dismemberment of Jamal Khashoggi, remember Biden said, if I get elected, there will be sanctions, there will be punishment for MBS for doing this. Did he do that? Of course he didn't. In fact, he became a butcher himself. Not a butcher of Washington Post journalists, a butcher of literal children in Gaza. So Tim Dillon is right. And the reason for this is because lobbyists buy politicians from both sides of the aisle. They don't care. They're not driven by heartfelt, principled ideology. They're driven by profit motives. In the case of foreign policy, you have countries like Israel that are driven by land expansion, border expansion. And they'll bribe anybody to get it, including Democrats, including Republicans. Republicans come in, they break. Democrats pretend like they're gonna fix it, but they never do. So the country just continues devolving further and further into the hellscape we're currently living in. But let's leave with some positive, optimistic commentary from Tim Dillon, because he does see a huge benefit to the internet and how it's playing a role in changing people's minds on certain issues. Let's take a look.
Social media has made the horrors of war a lot more accessible to people. I think one of the reasons that Israel has become so unpopular is because younger people are growing up seeing the realities of what's going on in Gaza on their phone every day.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that, when you look at the limits of hard power in this century, the Iran war might be the tipping point where you see this is the beginning of the end of America's ability to enforce a global order militarily.
Yeah. I think that's extremely likely.
And I think the next shoe to fall is our ability to do it economically.
I don't think we've been able to crush countries economically for a while now. I mean, just think about the economic sanctions we've implemented against Russia, against Iran. That didn't topple their regimes. that didn't really do much. Sure, it caused some pain and suffering for civilians, but we are unable to go around bullying other countries, making them bend to our will, both militarily and economically. Maybe we can learn a lesson from, China and flex that soft power by building relationships through trade, diplomacy, friendly relationships. Maybe we can build things for people instead of destroying things for people. That would be helpful. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, we are hated internationally as Americans, as a country. And that's because of how our government represents us, both at home and on the global stage. So I think it's about time we get our heads out of this Republicans bad, but Democrats very good mentality and see politicians for what they are. What is their track record? Who is funding them? What are their priorities? And yeah, some of them are gonna be Weasley and they're gonna skirt by lying to us. That's definitely true. But there needs to be coalitional power outside of government that's effective at applying pressure and making these damn politicians bend to our will. That's what we need.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.